Okay, and I think we're both unmuted. Can we confirm that the audio is good for the audience? It looks like it's good for here. Converse, can you do a shout out? One, two, three.
Yes, one, two, three. What's up to this one guy in the chat? What's up to Remember Sammy Jenkins in the chat? What's up to Tony Designs? No name. You guys hear me all right? Theoretically.
It should be okay and all going well. There should be no audio or no echo.
Cool, cool.
Converse, just first and foremost, I want to say thank you very much. You know, I don't know what time it is for you. It's like half three in the morning here, but
Oh, is it really? Wow.
I be bored. You have to have your sleep after Christmas dinner and Boxing Day dinner. So I slept for like 3 hours after Christmas dinner. I'm wide awake.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, it's 10:30 here, so 10:30 p.m. So
Well, Converse, you know
uh,
yourself. We've been chatting back and forth, and I've been down to get you on. This is a wee bit of off the cuff, sort of impromptu. So
sure.
thanks everybody for turning up. I know we said 3 o'clock, and it's nearly half three, but my wee girl woke up just as I had agreed to come on screen with Converse, and then he was having camera stuff and back and forth. But yeah, we're here now, and yeah, Converse, the show is yours if you want to let everyone who doesn't know what you're doing, who you are, and what the crack is with your channel.
Oh, sure. So basically, I guess I, I grew up pretty secular, pretty normal. When I was a little kid, I went to church with my grandmother, just as a wee lad, as you would say, and and so and I would sit beside her in church, and she would give me candy, and that was pretty much it. And then my family wasn't really a church-going family, although I would say that we were um, nominal Christians in that sense. But I was a punk rock skateboarder, and I say that because I played in punk bands and I was a skateboarder all the time. And so I was skating around the city in my backyard. I had a half pipe, and I was always seeing what I could get into. And I started making trouble, and um, so basically, I was not I was not really religious growing up until I guess maybe when I turned 20. I guess I mean I'm just going based off my memory.
Do you
I
mind me asking
was
what age you are now so we get a reference point?
Yeah, I'm 30. I'm 31 years old now.
I'm 36.
Um, okay. So basically, I guess I would say whenever I started my late high school years, my early college years, I started drinking, and in my college years, I got into doing drugs and just hanging out with the wrong people, and
Do you mind me
just
asking now, because certain people would refer to weed as a drug, do you mean that you were just doing weed and alcohol, or were you smoking weed,
yeah.
alcohol, or you were also doing fucking DMT and acid and mushrooms and...
Well, I guess I should clarify that. Yeah. So I was, and I don't mind. I'm an open book, really. I'm not ashamed of anything. I was drinking, smoking weed. I was, I didn't do anything really hard. I mean, I did like mushrooms a few times and stuff like that, but I never really did anything super hard, like some main, hardline drugs or anything.
Yeah, I get where you're coming
Um,
from. Like
yeah.
I've done weed. I've tried mushrooms once, and I tried. Is it Salvia deodorum? I tried it, and it did not
Mhm.
work whatsoever. But yeah, I'm the same
Yeah.
as you, man. I never did anything synthetic, as what we would refer to. You know,
Yeah.
like nothing ecstasy or anything like
Like
that.
meth or anything like that.
Oh
Yeah.
God, no, jeez, no. I didn't even
Yeah.
try ecstasy or cocaine or anything like that. My friends did, but it was just not
Right.
something that I was into.
Oh yeah. When I worked in construction for the last 4 years, and it seemed like everybody on the job sites was on meth or something. Man, I was probably the only one sober. Actually,
Well, you
I
see,
joke with
that's
that
why I
about.
asked for clarification, because you're in the
Yeah.
United States now, and even
Sure.
weed's not really classed as a drug anymore. My mother used to
Yeah.
classify weed as a drug, and now my mother uses CBD oil and other
Sure.
things for medical reasons, and has
Yeah.
realized the benefits of it. But We'll
Yeah,
not get
sure,
down
sure.
that road. We'll not go down that road.
Right. Well, yeah, that reminds me of the old Dave Chappelle um, with Bob Saget when he pops up and talks about weed versus cocaine. But either way, I mean, I guess you could say as a wee lad, I started going down that that road, and I mean, whenever I think back, it was more of like you know, me and my friends were listening to groups like there's a group Perpetual Groove and things like this that are really kind of psychedelic or like groovy. I mean, whatever you want to call it, but either way, it was kind of it was kind of like the music, and it was like, hey, dude, we got these gold cap mushrooms from Hawaii or whatever, and I'm like, I don't. I don't know about that. And then they're like, no, you don't even eat them. You can just boil them in water and blah, blah, blah and
Yeah,
drink the
we made tea.
poison
Yeah, we
and all
made
that.
tea.
Yeah. And like you mix it with Sierra Mist and you don't even taste it and all this. So I'm like, all right, these guys must know what they're doing or whatever. So they, I didn't know any better. And so, I've had a couple experiences like that, but for the most part, I try to, I try to get away from that. Um, so I guess where the story, where we left in the chronological order was,
Well, how long
I
are you
guess
a
I started,
Christian? That's what we're
yeah,
waiting
so
to
that's
get.
what, right. That's what I was getting to. So, that was in my college years. Let's say. Now, that was 18, 19, 20, 21. Now, when I turned 20, I remember thinking, I'm out of high school now. I'd really want to know like why did everybody believe what they do? So I started looking into philosophy and other things like that. And so I started really listening to a lot of discussions and things on YouTube and picking up a couple of books that were written and looking into these topics. And then I had my son at the age of 23, and that really kind of
Grounds you, doesn't it?
yeah, that kind of woke me up. So I've got an 8-year-old now, but when I was 23 years old and I had my son, you know, as a young man, that's that can wear on you. I mean, you lose so much sleep you don't even realize. When people tell you like you don't understand the freedom you have and the responsibility that it takes, I just roll my eyes. But now, when I think back about it, I mean, like I lost so much sleep over those next like 3 to 4 years. But anyway,
Yeah, no,
so then
as we do here, I do a wee tangent and talk about myself because it's my channel. But I remember, I think it was 3 weeks or a month in after. Now the girlfriend she stayed in hospital for something like 3 weeks. But I think after a month after she got out, a friend of hers couldn't make it to a ballet. Right now, my woman doesn't do fucking ballet. But she hadn't
uh,
been out in a month. It was 2 tickets. They were free. Her mother had got them, and it was like, look, her and her mum go out and have a few drinks and sort of, you've been through a lot. Go and enjoy yourself, yeah?
right,
And she must have rang me and texted me, I think, about 50 times. And was like, is everything okay? How's the child? I said, oh, she's fine. She hasn't woke up. She's sleeping all night. She's being a great baby. All of it lies, man. She hadn't stopped crying for all fucking night. She'd been crying for
yeah,
about 6 hours straight. And I waited till my mum come
uh,
home. And I was like, how are you, honey? And she was like, oh, no, I didn't have anything to drink. We just had a good time and all the rest of it. I was like, well, you haven't drank? Oh, brilliant. Here's the baby. She hasn't stopped fucking crying for 6 hours. I lied.
yeah, that's good. That's funny. That's exactly how it is, and so I guess at that point, I realized so. His mom and I didn't stay together, and I was still young, and I guess I seen my life, and I was like, it's really not turning out like I thought originally, and um, so I guess what I did was I started looking into a lot of philosophy and like trying to find out what can I know to be the case, like what can I know to be true, like how and so I gravitated towards science and philosophy and like how do you know things, and then I started looking into like Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, and I looked a little bit into the avatars of Hinduism and things like that, but I never got really deep into the Hinduism side.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
then I looked at a lot of Asian culture because I
Yeah,
really liked Asian culture a lot.
Japanese are
Um,
good. They make swords.
well, I was super into like the Shaolin monks,
Yeah,
Even the secular students, not even the Buddhist ones necessarily, just their way of life, like watching the documentaries. I probably watched those documentaries probably 100 times with the little kids when they're like 5 years old, climbing up a mountain every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, and having to punch bags of rice for 2 hours, and then
Yeah, like there's
all this
some of them
stuff in the
monks that
freezing
can go up
cold.
there in a pair of shorts and sit in the snow and meditate at the top of a mountain in the snow for 12 hours at a time, 24 hours at a time. And
Yeah, yeah, and so I thought that was really cool. By the way, if this bookshelf falls on my head, like it'd make for good TV. But I
have
just
you
put
ever
this
seen the
bookshelf up
Swedish?
here.
Have you ever seen the
Huh?
Swedish Iceman? I think he's Swedish.
I don't think so.
He can control his own body to a certain extent, and he can go
Oh,
swimming in Antarctic under the ice. He can control his own immune system. People told him he was full of shit, so he was like, right, put me under any test you want, and not only that, give me 6 months and 6 people, and I'll teach them how to do it as well. And every test he has passed, and the people he has brought with him, they have then passed the tests as well, and he now runs like a meditation school for controlling your body. He takes people up the mountains in their shorts and makes them run, very very similar to the Shaolin monks.
wow. Yeah, that's really cool. I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen that, but
Yeah, just
I
search
definitely will check it
Iceman.
out.
Iceman on Google. I think that's what or on YouTube. I think that's what he's known as now. Is just Iceman.
Yes. So to make a long short story a little bit shorter, um,
Don't ruin it, man. We're
so
only on 12 minutes. Slobber on for an hour. We will.
right, I'll just really lay it on. So in the fall of 2008, no, I'm just kidding. Um, so my life wasn't really going as planned, and I thought I'd be married and have kids at some point in this whole thing, and so I started looking at Siddhartha Gautama Buddha and some of these other worldviews and religions and philosophies and trains of thought and so on and so forth, and you know, and then one day I was watching all these different documentaries about Jesus on like some probably the History Channel or some wacko channel that was being replayed on YouTube,
I
and
love the way you
and it
say
was
History Channel and put it in with Wacko Channel at the same time. I agree with you.
definitely
They put fucking ancient aliens up, like, but
right, and we can talk about that too because one of my favorite scholars, Dr. Michael Heiser, and a guy named Chris White did Ancient Aliens Debunked. They're both Christians, and it's just ridiculous. Like they interviewed Michael Heiser for that show to be one of the scholars on it,
do
and he
you
goes,
know
"None
of
of that.
Michael Tellinger?
I'm not sure."
Well, Michael Tellinger believes all the works of Stitchin, and has
Sit-
actually, yeah, he's found Enki's house. He's actually found the exact site where the humans were genetically modified. And oh man, you laugh. He's got
just here before you go too deep. The scholar I just referenced, Dr. Michael Heiser, he has a website called sitchinsiswrong.com. In it, he shows how nothing that was said on the show is possible with the Sumerian text. So
yeah,
the Anunnaki are not who Sitchin says they are. Nibiru is never mentioned as a planet and any seal or anything. Just look up his sitchinswrong.com and he debunks everything that Sitchin had said. And so it's kind of humorous to me, like to see. I was at Barnes and Nobles earlier, and I've seen some of Sitchin's books, and he said this guy that the scholar I'm telling you about, he's PhD in ancient Semitic languages. He knows. He takes you in some of his videos on YouTube to the Sumerian corpus text of with the Sumerian language, and he looks up every reference to these words like Anunnaki and Nibiru and so on and so forth. And there's nothing like what Sitchin has claimed in his books. It seems like he's picked it up or either made it up. I'm not sure how, um, but that's definitely a good. In fact, they interviewed Michael Heiser for Ancient Aliens, the show, and they didn't use any of his footage because they said because he said none of it can be true according
yeah,
to the actual text.
yeah. He
It,
cuts
it doesn't
words
make
and
sense.
he snippets things. He doesn't use them in their full context.
Right, exactly. But So I guess I started looking into that kind of thing, and I remember watching this one documentary on Jesus where he had went, and keep in mind I'm big into Asian uh, culture, and this one documentary was like, yeah, Jesus, not, and they were saying it like it was totally legit. They're like, no, Jesus, seriously, he traveled to Asia after he supposedly died. He was resuscitated, and when he got there, there's still a temple there today that's dedicated to him, but his name's not Jesus, and it's had some other name written on it, but it said that he was a traveler or something, and they made up this whole thing about Jesus is made it to this temple over there and was some type of monk or something. And
Oh, I've had a guy at
anyway,
work that actually has his own wee church locally and has leaflets, pamphlets, whatever you want to call them, and he's been to the tomb of Jesus. Like he's been to the actual
yeah,
unnamed tomb. Some people say some mad things.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like I started looking at these documentaries and I'm like, wait a second, like, how did first of all, is that possible? Like, is that even could it be true? So I thought, you know what? Let me look at who Jesus is, right? Because I'm looking at Buddha and these other leaders, and I'm like, so I start looking at Christ, and keep in mind at this point, I I heard somebody say that Christians thought Jesus was God, and I go, what? I remember being in church, and I'm all those years when I was little, and I was like, wait a second, Christians believe Jesus is God? Are you sure about that?
I think it
So
was
I just thought, yeah, I thought, no way they believe that.
I think it was
And so,
Peg Creek that actually said in one of his videos one time, if someone uses that statement and Jesus and God are the same person, then you go straight back to the Old Testament and go, right, so Jesus flooded everybody. We're just confirming that Jesus flooded the world. And then they all
yeah,
go a flutter. And
yeah, that's not a problem at all. Um, in fact, I find some of his material to be facile, because it's like saying it's like that reminds me of create the young Earth creationists who go, oh, so evolution's true, so then a banana is my grandpa. That's what's known as a facile argument. It's where you give an account of something without giving all the complexities of the issue by making it simple and neat. I use that term a lot, facile, because I think it's underused by everybody, really, but I think it's underused specifically in apologetics. So I use it all the time. I mean,
do you mind me just jumping in, Converse, and just asking you straight up, man? As you said, the date when you joined religion, what
yeah.
is your denomination?
What is my
Because
denomination?
if you don't mind me asking, we were recently, I think it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, and you jumped
Uh,
into one of the chats or one of the after parties. I think it was Richard's final stream, and you described yourself as not religious. Would I be? I'm paraphrasing.
yeah. No, you're right. All right. So, um, I say, all right. So I'm not a denomination. No. What I would say is I'm not religious, depending on how you define religious, because
Coca-Cola
if
can be
if
described as a religion. I actually
yeah,
watched a
yeah.
documentary that was 40 minutes long where they went through about how Coca-Cola and other things, but it was mainly focused on Coca-Cola, could be, defined as a
Well,
religion.
I'm religious about sweet tea, that's for sure.
But we're
But
talking colloquially here. We're talking
yeah.
mainstream.
So if by religion, okay. So this is what I'm gonna tell you what I mean by religion.
Well,
Religious
I'm
to
gonna
me
interrupt you. I'm
is
gonna interrupt you and be really rude and just ask you two
sure.
questions. Do you think that Jesus Christ is the Savior, and do you worship Yahweh, God, and that person who I'm referring to?
Yes.
Well, then you would be referred to as a Christian, and therefore I would define you as religious.
Yeah. So let me tell you what I was getting to with that. Um. So if by religious somebody, all right. So here's what I see when I see religions. Religions typically are a group with a set of practices to try and merit favor with God. And let me explain. With Judaism, you have the Ten Commandments. With Islam, you have the five pillars of Islam. With Hinduism, you have karma. So if you do good, then you will get good on the other side, or when you come back, or whatever it may be. Everybody has this merit-based system where if you do something, you get something, that
Well,
kind of
that's
thing.
down to the
But with
works. Some people believe in the works. Some people don't believe in works.
right, but with Christianity, it's by faith alone through grace uh, by God. So grace is a work of God. It's not something that you're just going to do to merit favor with God. So in that sense, there is no religious practice that merits favor with God. Now,
Again, it
but
depends on who you
as
talk to.
James, but as the Bible says, faith without works is dead. So you could say, well, yeah, but after your faith, then you could do some things like live a pious life or try to live with as little sin as possible in your life or that kind of thing. In that sense, yeah, I guess you could say, in that sense, I'm religious. But I just mean like as in religious practice, I'm not very religious in that sense.
Yeah, I would agree with, like I've said before on stream, and a lot of the regular viewers would know that I would refer to my mother. She would be, as what I would call, spiritually religious, as in
Uh-huh.
she in her mind would put Jesus and God at the very top of the pedestal, at the very top of the hierarchy, so to speak. But at the same time would also say, why the fuck do I need to go to church? God's bloody everywhere. Does her own thing, takes what she needs, and has her own peace with it.
Um, so yeah, so I guess what I would point out is the last part of my little story there.
Sorry,
was
I don't mean to interrupt, but
yeah, go ahead.
if that alert is correct, then I just got my first ever Patreon, and that would be Remember Sammy Jenkins, and I want to just
Wow,
say thank you very much for that.
thanks. Yeah, definitely.
It's all going towards a new camera, so you will eventually start seeing me on screen. But at the minute, as Converse and anyone who knows me who has seen my camera that cost 35 quid, it auto focuses like an absolute bastard. So it's no
It
good.
does. I noticed that.
Yeah. So yeah, 3.14. That's the first three digits of pi. So remember, Sammy
Mhm.
Jenkins, thank you very much. Just I'm gonna have to like do something special for that cunt now. Oh no, wait! I just made the only video on his channel. I've already done that. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, we'll call him RSJ. Thanks, RSJ.
Thank you. Oh, we
That's
just call him
awesome.
Sammy. We just call him
Yeah,
Sammy.
maybe one day I'll set up a Patreon for some equipment. That would be pretty cool. I could use some equipment. I just got like I put a TV up here and I'm building this bookshelf here. But this shelf up here only has a couple brackets in it, so I'm kind of worried about it because it's got some pretty heavy books on it.
I,
And
in all
and
honesty,
so
man, I just went out like last week. Oh well, I went out a few months ago and just decided to brand absolutely everything.
really?
Oh yeah, I own
Uh,
MathPig.com and all. I have a friend
right,
of it.
okay.
Yeah, and I've got
Cool.
yeah the YouTube MathPig. Go out and brand everything now. Once you hit 100 subscribers, go and get your URL and make your URL everything.
Yeah, I think I'm at like maybe 125 or something like that. I haven't looked, but I'm somewhere around that. So yeah, I need to do my URL too. Tony Designs. I forgot to click that link he sent me. Maybe he can resend it to me.
It's probably the same link I fucking
Tony
sent
helps
him.
me with everything.
Yeah, it's
It's
probably
just like
the
I was.
same link I sent him. Tony's like the middleman. I teach Tony,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Tony
yeah.
teaches the
One of you
masses.
guys sent me it, and then that's what I told James from Modern Day Debate. He goes, "Yeah, I was on the stream with MathPig and Tony Designs, and they convinced me to get a Discord,
Well, it's not that
and
he convinced you. Tony at like 5 in the morning dared me that I couldn't set one up, and I was like, I'll fucking do one in 15 minutes. So I
right,
literally just copied the because I'd set the geek room up as well. I jumped into
hmm
the geek room, copied it, and then just give you the same settings as the geek room and changed a few of the names. So it sort of was a cheat, but it worked.
yeah."
It worked.
Well, when you set up James from Modern Day Debates Discord, he was like, "Yeah, I don't know MathPig, and he said I know MathPig, and I know Tony Designs from being around the community, but I don't know him that well."
Yeah.
He said, "What do you think?" He said, "I think they're going to set up my Discord. What do you think?" I said, "Yeah, they set up mine, like And he goes, "Well, perfect. Yeah, I want you on there as well, like, because he's probably not going to be a part of, like, he's got so much going on right
Yeah.
now. I
Yeah.
doubt he'll probably be getting on there, but." I was like, yeah, definitely. They set mine up. Like,
Well, I
And
had it
so
sitting
you
there
guys,
for
I
three
rely on y'all
days.
for all kind of stuff.
It
So
was sitting there for 3 days, but as I did with your own, I wasn't going to make it available to the public until I could transfer ownership. Because if it's set up for you, then you should be the boss. If it's set up for James, then
right,
James should be the boss. And as much as I'm there for technical support and can do everything the owner can do, the owner of the server should have final say on everything.
sure.
I don't want to show any
So
bias. I'm there to help everybody. I'll help even if you're a green alien, as long as you don't kill my mother or pick on my daughter or shout at my girlfriend, I'll pretty much help you out.
yeah, well, so I guess the last little bit of that of my intro, like my introduction, is whenever I came into Christianity. So I didn't come to Christianity because something terrible happened to me or something like that. What I did was I was looking at the character of Christ and trying to figure out. Like I said, I didn't even know Christians thought he was God. So then I started looking into him, and I realized, man, this guy's pretty cool. Like, he's going into these temples. He's calling out religious people on their hypocrisy. He's kicking over their money changing tables and their temples, and he's saying to these people, there's no difference between Jew and Greek, male and female, slave or free. You know, these kind of things, and I'm like, whoa, that's obviously it got him killed in his time. The things he was saying, like I'm as this punk rock skateboarder, I'm like, okay, so he was the first feminist. Okay, so he was the first person to call out racism. Okay, so he's the first person to talk about, there's no difference between slave or free man. Okay, that kind of thing. And then whenever I read that he claimed I am the truth, I thought, man, that's odd. Like, I've heard people claim they know the truth, but to hear him claim I am the truth, I just thought, what an odd statement. And then I
I
thought,
am also hung like a donkey.
huh?
I'm hung like a donkey. I'm just making a statement, though. I'm
Oh,
just.
right. So what I was getting, that's what the next part I was about to say is, with this crazy statement, he either is who he says he either he has this authority, or either he's crazy.
Well, you could ask 500 girls that I've been with before the girlfriend. They all say I'm hung like a donkey.
Yeah, but wouldn't you agree with me? Either he is who he says he is, or he's crazy.
Or he could be lying.
Well, yeah, liar, lunatic, or lord, right?
You made he could be crazy or he's telling the truth. I'm just saying there's a third option that he could be lying.
Yeah, that's C.S.
I'm
Lewis's
obviously
thing.
not
Liar,
lying.
lunatic. Yeah,
I'm not lying. Just making that clear.
yeah, I'll take your word for that one.
Totally
Yeah,
gonna wake the
but
daughter now, but yeah.
but whenever I look up, I'm looking for, like, who's reliable. Like, if God revealed himself to humans, who is a reliable person that I could look at and go, that's probably who God revealed himself to, if God did in fact reveal himself. And I thought, who else than Christ? I mean, I don't think there's even if you're not, of course, you're not religious or spiritual or anything like that, but
I'm
even if
open,
you're not,
generally
you
open
can
to it.
look at all the options and say, is there anything close to Christ in that? And I don't think there is anything close.
Well, as a reference back to my original question, which started the entire tangent, if you could put yourself in a denomination, what denomination would you put yourself in? Now, I've said here before, and I'm not a fan of it, pigeonholes tend to make pigeons
Right.
easier to shoot. But
Right. Exactly.
if you could put yourself in a reference point, like I use the term agnostic, sometimes I would say true agnostic, because I generally am open to an awful lot of things. I've got a wee bit of woo in my background, which leans me a little, not centrist agnostic, maybe a wee bit towards the theist. I've had that whole deistic and all that there sort of,
Sure.
but if I had to pigeonhole myself, that would be the closest I could pigeonhole. If you could pigeonhole yourself in a little white
So
box with a TV behind you and a map on the wall, what pigeonhole would you?
so I guess what I would say is, um, I'm pretty much. I think all Christians are the same on the basics, but if you're specifics, I typically disagree with most denominations, so that is kind of difficult for me to say. I would say that, you know, I tend to lean Reformed, but I'm a Molinist. So sometimes that confuses people. And, I believe, I believe all the basics, though, that most Christians do, that Christ is God, and that Christ came in the flesh, and so on and so forth. I just don't know I've never seen a denomination that got it all right, and then I go, that's what I would be. I mean, I just, I never did when I first started. I never liked the term non-denominational because I thought, because I heard a preacher once say, "Oh yeah, all that means is they don't have any concrete beliefs," But
Yeah, it's like being a spiritual person, but with a Christian background. Same as my mom. That's
right,
pick and choose what you want, but you've still got that hierarchy. That you've still got, possibly the Trinity or whatever. You've still got that foundation in Christianity.
yeah,
But
but
you're
yeah,
picking and
so I
choosing.
believe, yes, I believe all that, but I would just say that I'm not. I don't have that background from my childhood, if that's what you mean, because I never knew anything about the Trinity. I never knew anything about Christ being God or anything like that. But if you just
So
mean
you were
like as
raised
in
in a secular home.
basically, you could say that my parents were nominal Christians. I don't think I ever seen my dad go to church before.
I
My
would use the
mom maybe
term.
had.
What I would use over here is cultural Christian. Someone who attains to all the, go get the baby christened, and if someone dies, you go to the funeral. If you want to get married, you need to
We
go to the
never did.
church. But at the
Yeah,
end of the
we
day, they don't go every Sunday, and, I
yeah
would
we
call
never
that
did the baby christening or any of that stuff. Like I say, I don't think my dad ever went to a church before. Um,
my mother still
uh,
has my christening dress from when I was christened in
oh
1984.
really?
Oh, man, it's white and looks like something you would put. It is. It's
It's different
no.
on that side of the pond. I see. Tony Design said, "Have Converse." I don't. It just moved on me. He
Yeah,
said, "Have Converse explain
Mullen.
Molinism."
Yeah, if you could, because I didn't know what it understood. I didn't understand it. You have a
Okay,
background
so
in philosophy, yes?
what was that?
You do have a background in philosophy.
Yes, I don't have a degree in philosophy, but I do. Yeah,
You're
I do
working
have
on
a.
it, though. You are working
What
on
was
it.
that? Yeah, I'm working on an. I'm actually just going back to finish my Associates of Science. So, as I said, I was a single father for a long time, and I was going to school 4 nights a week and working a full time job, and I had a newborn baby, and so I ended up something had to give, and it was school that gave. So
Yeah, I
then I sat in
understand.
a dental laboratory where I worked for 9 years
I
listening every day to books and lectures and so on and so forth. And I um,
something
kind
along
of, what was that?
something along the similar lines, man. One of the reasons I MathPig originally, Math Magic Pagan, is a background in maths and physics.
Okay.
I did 4 A levels. I went on to Queen's University in Belfast. It's the well, it's quite a reputable university in Northern
Yeah.
Ireland, one of the best. And I went there. I was aiming to be astrophysicist. That's what my goal was. But as you
Uh,
say, life steps in.
right.
Yeah, I had a girlfriend at the time who was agoraphobia, and trying to support two people when you're working and
Oh, she was
doing.
agoraphobic.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. That I even
Well, not
remember
completely
that term.
100% agoraphobic, as it would never leave the
Yeah, yeah.
house, but it was very, very specific. Had to have, certain this, that, and the other, and couldn't hold a
Hmm.
job down. And when you're trying to pay
Was
for a
worried
house,
about social thing. Yeah.
yeah.
So, um, yeah. So I'll explain Molinism, but I'll just say that, um, the term I would probably use is autodidact. I believe that's the term. It
No,
just
no, no,
means
you're
like you're.
banned. I'm going to ban that because that sounds too smart. Jim Majors gets shouted at, and I don't want Jim Majors to feel singled out. When you use big words here, it's called the pigsty, man. We try to aim everything for the audience so they can understand. No fancy words.
Right. It's just the
Remind me
word
to
that
say
means that
something.
you.
Remind me to ask you something when we're finished because I was going to
Okay.
mention it and then we tangent. But yes, no big
Sure.
fancy words. And if you do say
Okay.
a big fancy word, you have to follow it up with an explanation or a description.
Yeah. So that term just means that it's kind of like you're self-taught, or you didn't have somebody that you didn't have a tutor or some type of person that taught you.
Yeah, I
So
agree with that.
Molinism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I learned
So.
I learnt more outside of school than I've ever learnt in school, because the school system in this country is, oh, don't even get me started. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I've told
I
my
understand.
girlfriend, if our daughter goes to school and the first year and a half, she starts to get stupider, I'm gonna
Hmm.
quit my job. It's school in this country, I find, teaches you to fall in line, teaches you to repeat rather than teaches you, what we refer to as
How to
logical,
learn,
yeah,
right?
logical thinking, and question
Hmm.
things and things like that. There, it doesn't teach you to think for yourself. It teaches you just to fall in line.
I agree, and this is, of course, another tangential point, but I listened to a philosophy lecture, and the guy made an interesting point. He said, in Germany, in the before, you know, when the Germans were at the height of the scientific world, the German kid was going to school like, "Give me your knowledge," and the American kid was going to school to. They were paying to go to school like, "Here's my dad's money, get me the skills that I can make money with. Like, get me the skills for my next job," kind of
See,
thing.
as
And
a
so I thought
very
that was interesting.
as something slightly tangent to that, the American
Sure.
mindset. My father, I don't know if you know or not, was what we would refer to here as territorial army. Some people would call it part-time army. But
Uh-huh.
there is a backup, and when they're called to do duty, they do duty. And my father did 2 6-month tours in Iraq and a 6-month tour in Afghanistan, and
Hmm.
he was quite high up in his local regiment, so he had a few
Sure.
connections. And the guy in charge of the British Army had
Hmm.
more IPCs, more APCs, more people carriers to carry them about, because the American army was so many people on the ground, so to speak. They did a lot more walking. So what the British guy in charge said to the American guy in charge was like, "Look, I'm doing some training for IDC detecting. When you're out walking, what to
Uh-huh.
look for in the ground to see if there's a mine, to see, an IDC,
Yeah.
And the American guy responded was like, "No, I don't need to waste time. I've got plenty of men. As in, it doesn't matter if they
Wow.
get blown up, I can just replace them."
Wow.
So as you say, the sort of mindset, as in, don't think for yourself. It's, oh, there's plenty there. The whole consumerism, the whole
Right.
capitalism, the whole, it doesn't matter if they get destroyed. There's more there. And if you've got unlimited money, you can do what you want. Unlimited men, you can do what you want. I find that if you have to
But that
work,
guy was he was probably just a dick anyway because
but just to finish myself up and go
yeah,
on
go
back
ahead.
to yourself. But I find
Yeah.
a short version of that is, if you have to work for something, then I find that you find more value in it. It does
Yeah.
make a reference back to the whole pull your socks up thing, which is not a great
Hmm.
phrase and nobody really likes it, but it is very, very relevant.
Yeah,
Bad times,
personal responsibility.
yeah, bad times cause character, and hard times, it's just my mindset, but that's
Yeah, I
possibly me.
agree.
Like,
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm a woodworker, and I like building furniture the old school way with like a chisel and like a handsaw and stuff like that,
I could
as
totally
opposed
tangent.
as opposed to pulling out like my, battery powered DeWalt
Yep.
sawzall and drill and you know, just machining it to death. It's super easy. Um, and
We
anyway, so
we go walking in the forests with the dogs. My girlfriend has a dog. I have a dog, and it's good to be outside. I like to encourage that. And I, for the long time, I would go out walking and randomly pick up a stick. As we're getting
right.
old with our bad hips and all that, there, you need a wee stick to help you along. And not 6 months ago, I found a stick. I thought it was great. It was the perfect length. It was the exact right shape. I took it
Hmm.
home, and we keep bees, so I rubbed the entire thing in beeswax. I heated it over the oven, or over the gas cooker, melted the wax down, rubbed it in, everything. I have a lot of respect for natural wood, man. It's
Yeah.
The girlfriend laughed at me because I spent like 6 hours, you know, waxing this thing without anyone taking that out of context. But
Yeah.
rubbing beeswax
I'm
into
gonna
it.
pull that clip for
Oh
sure.
man, I know exactly because it takes one to know one, and I did that with fucking yeah, I did that with
Yeah.
Atheist Edge Jim and Richard Madsen. If you haven't seen it, but yeah, no,
No.
I
So
spent ages with this stick, and I can understand the love for wood. Metal is good. I prefer mechanics when it comes to metal, but wood is fantastic. I've replaced
definitely.
everything in my
There's
house with natural
yeah,
wood.
and yeah, and I hate that so many tangents come up, but I used to hear people
Tangents
talk
are
about
king here, okay? Tangent. I
right,
might change my name from Hogfather to Tangent Father, but
right, there you go. So I actually love this there's a people used to say all the time like, cutting down a tree for wood is like immoral because you're killing the tree and blah blah blah. So it turns out that wood never really dies; it just decays. So like for example, if you build so I remember watching a Japanese documentary about Japanese woodworking, and the guy said, "No, no, kill the tree. The tree stands straight up on my beam." And it moves and it sways and it absorbs moisture and it does, and he's explaining this and he's like, the tree's always moving. And so basically he was saying like the tree's not dead, the tree's alive. It's utilized differently. And
yep.
then he goes the way he was talking about joinery, like was what I like to use, where things, instead of nailing it, you like make a slot and then you join things together, right?
Hmm.
Like wood pieces, like finger joints and box
Oh,
joints and these
you
kind of things.
talk faster, I'll tangent.
Right. So anyway, he's like, this Japanese guy was like, house in America, full of nails and brackets, and he said, last maybe 100 years. Japanese temple, 1,000 years still standing. I was like, this guy's awesome. So that's definitely a cool thing, and that I agree. I'm big into woodworking, and
Well,
but
I'm
anyway,
gonna really, really quickly.
yeah.
There is a running joke, if anyone knows and they've seen, of Lucy Luxury. You can go back and look. There's a whole picture I bought of a new oak fireplace that I got second hand. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful oak fireplace. It's very, very big. It takes at least two people to carry it. And I was hoping to put brick inside the new fireplace, no, inside the surround.
Hmm.
And I found out that my auntie, who owns a lot of farmland that she's recently bought, knocked down a house. This house is maybe
Uh-huh.
150, 200 years old. You can't have no foundations. You know, one of them houses? And if anyone
Sure.
knows, it's got Bangor blue slate as the roof tiles. Now, Bangor blue slate is what is actually the slates on Buckingham Palaces.
Oh, okay.
But these slates were very, very popular back in the day and were massive. At the minute
Wow.
now, they're charging upwards of £25 a tile for a brand new Bangor blue slate. They're guaranteed for over a century. It's You can look at whatever. It's fantastic.
That's pretty cool.
And I'm asked my auntie, could I take them? So she's charging me £1 a tile. Well, actually, she told me I could have them for free, and then her husband found out my uncle's a tight bastard and a farmer, and he was like, "No, £1 a tile, £1 a tile." But that's what I'm going to now do for the fireplace, for the actual chimney breast, is going to be done in
Hmm.
Bangor blue slate. The same stuff that they do
Wow.
Buckingham Palace in, but it's old. I like that idea, man. I agree with you in that the older stuff is, yeah.
Yeah.
Tangent
That's
King.
that's interesting.
I don't
Yeah.
think you were
So,
ready for this.
well, it's a tangential point. So we're coming back around to. So what I would say is um, so on Molinism. So because that was the question.
Yes.
I said that I'm kind of I tend to lean reformed, but I'm kind of a Molinist, which people don't really care for a lot of times. So what I mean by Molinism is a segment of theology that basically says that God, yes, he has foreknowledge of what will happen, but he also has this knowledge called middle knowledge of what would happen, giving a circumstance. So I'm going to use another big word here, okay?
Oh, you have
Another
to
big
explain
term.
it afterwards.
I
As
will
long as you
explain it.
use
I
it,
will.
as long as you explain it afterwards.
Sure. So there's this term subjunctive conditional, and it's
Oh, you
used
see,
in
I know
language a lot.
subjunctivism now.
Okay. So it's used in language a lot. Like subjunctive conditional just means a conditional statement Like, for example, if this, then that. So I could say an example of this counterfactual is
I'm just gonna
if
jump in,
Matt,
right? If
if
you say FP then Q, then I'm gonna kick you
right,
from the room.
I wasn't going to do that, but that's your that's correct. I was actually going to say, like
Yep. Just means that we love them.
I actually wasn't going to say that, but that is right. What I was going to say is something like, let's say that you like strawberry ice cream. So if
I prefer
MathPig
mint
went
chocolate
to
chip. If you're mint
okay,
chocolate chip.
so if MathPig goes to an ice cream shop, he will get mint chocolate chip.
Yep.
That's an example of
That's a
a
fact.
subjunctive conditional. So what we're saying is God has that type of knowledge because not only does he know what will end up happening, but he knows what would have ended up happening in any other circumstance. So,
Yeah, well,
in
just as an
how
example, I've walked into a homemade ice cream shop that's local in our shop, and my woman knows for a fact that every single time I go in, I will get mint chocolate chip because they get
right?
mint Euro bars and they actually crumble it up and mix it through the ice cream,
Oh, okay.
which
So
is
you like okay, I got you.
fantastic. But
That's all.
not like I think it was last summer, not this summer past, but last summer I walked in and just as a special, they'd made strawberry cheesecake, wrapped it with raspberry ripple, and cut up strawberries and mixed it through. So that was a random out of the blue, and my girlfriend, as you would make a reference, God knew for a fact 99.9999% of the time I would walk in, like if she said to me, "What do you
Right.
want?" I want the chocolate chip from fucking, you know. And
Yeah.
but only I walked in that day, they were making homemade strawberry cheesecake ice cream
Yeah.
with digestive biscuits and real strawberries cut through it. That was
Right. So
so.
in that situation, God would know that in that certain situation that you would what you would have done.
So God can
And
see
so
further in time.
what was that?
So God can see further in time. He knows
So he
what will
has
happen.
right. So he has knowledge of what free creatures would do in certain circumstances. So
Well,
let
for
me give you the
just to say from a scientific point of view, and not making a reference to make everybody to make it simpler for everybody, but I do try and do that. Think of
sure.
Interstellar. When you can actually see forward, back, and through time as a line, then you must be outside of it. If God is outside of time, how can one? You know, if he's outside of time, he's outside of time and space. How can he then affect time and space?
Hmm, that's interesting. Yeah. Um, so here's what I would say is that you know let me give you an example from Scripture because a lot of people say, well, that's not found in Scripture that God has that kind of knowledge. But when David in the when the David who fought Goliath, it was later king. Before he was king, Saul was king, and Saul was wanting to kill David. He was seeking him everywhere, and David went to this city called Keilah, and he prays to God. He says, God, if if I stay here in Keilah and Saul comes here, will he kill me? And God says, yeah, if you stay there, he'll kill you. And David left. And so God knew something that would have happened that never came to pass. So that lets you know right there that he knows
So
of a
he said something.
situation.
He said something that will happen if you do X. That person didn't do X, and then God can sit back and go, "Look, that didn't happen, and I knew it wouldn't."
Right.
Right. Well, just for talk's sake, right? I'm going to make an example and say, "Oh, I went down a very dirty route there. I'm hanging around with too many people like Sadie and things like that." But
Sure.
you could go to bed tonight and get lucky, and I make that prediction.
Uh-huh. Sure.
And if we end up staying in this stream for more than another 3 or 4 hours, then when you go to bed, your wife's falling asleep and you don't get lucky. And I would be like, but you see, if I'd have told you if you'd have went to bed 2 hours ago, you'd have got lucky.
All right.
So I knew the future
Exactly.
from a different timeline. Now, does it
Yeah.
mean that that timeline exists down a different one? Are we talking multiverse, or Are you just like, there's no proof to say that that would happen. The fact that you didn't do that means that you don't know that that would have happened. You could have
Yeah,
tried
I
to
would.
go in there and get your leg over, and I told you that it was going to happen, and she bait you and says, take your torchlight and go away. We don't
Yeah.
know the exact outcome.
So what I would say is this: God knows his creatures because he created them. He
Yeah.
knows their.
If you could just address this one, I'm going to try and succinct.
Yeah.
I'm very bad at articulating what I'm trying to say here at the moment in time. As I
Okay.
say, it is quarter
Sure.
past 4 in the morning here, but the
Sure.
fact that he said something was going to happen and you went down a different route, and he says, right, if you went down that other route, this would have happened. How do you know for a
Uh-huh.
fact that that would have happened? What is your proof or evidence that if you did the other thing, that that would have happened? If I'm articulating that correctly.
You're asking me how do I know that God actually was right about that?
Yes, because you're giving him credit and saying, look, he was, if I went the other route, he said that was going to happen. How do you know for sure that that would happen?
Well,
You're just putting your faith in God because God is correct, but you don't know that. As I say, you could make the reference point, and 9 times out of 10, if you went to bed at 12 o'clock, you'd have got the leg over. But particularly tonight, when you went to bed at 12 o'clock, it didn't happen. Even though that every red house you see in a row is red, how do you know the next one is red? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
yeah, but it seems like you're looking at it from an anthropomorphic point of view, like
What's
just meaning like you're looking at it from a human point of view.
I
That's
just
like
use sexing
so.
as an example, but
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So let me give you a couple of explanations. So one thing I would say is like, my goal wasn't to prove. My goal was to just give you a scripture that seems to indicate Molinism, from the Bible first, and then I would just say that if we're doing an internal critique of the Bible, like if you're looking at the worldview of a Christian or somebody that reads the Bible, then the God that you're looking at there is all knowing. And so to take a verse and go, yeah, but how would he know that? It's to jump back. It's the taxi cab fallacy. It's to jump back from the fact that he's all knowing and then go, yeah, but how do you know he actually knew it? It's like, well, if we're looking at Christianity, we have to look at it from what it actually says, like that their God is all knowing and so forth. So
well, in
that's how I
reference
would put
point to
that.
that, man, if there is videos of me on, I think Richard Madsen's channel way back in maybe August or something, where he had me on before I had my own after a Skylar show, and I have had experiences of precognition. I've had things that I've
Yeah.
known
Wow.
have gonna happen and have experienced them, and then they've happened. Now, I have also looked into the idea of deja vu and the way the mind works. And,
Mhm.
if you experience something that's 70% similar to something that you've experienced before, but you missed a bit, then your brain will fill in the blanks. Your brain does not like blanks. So it makes a reference point and takes memories from before, and that's how you get deja vu. But I'll still stand to a point on certain things that I've experienced. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to
It's
say that they're
interesting.
supernatural. I'm going to say that maybe it's something that we don't understand already.
It's interesting because I started writing a. It's kind of lame because I was just a young guy, but when I was like 20, I don't know, 7 or something like that, I started writing a book about God called Deja Vu because I thought that was like a cool reference, but it was pretty lame. So
No, but that's
anyway,
just, these are just
so
reference points. Like I have said on
yeah,
Richard Madsen's stream that my mother's side of the family come from what they have referred to as witches. What my mother would refer to
really,
as more in tune with the other side, but they could be under a certain definition referred to as witches. So I'm definitely
yeah.
open to that sort of
Well,
the woo side of things. But I don't think
well,
that it's possibly supernatural outside of it's. I'm going to try and pick my words correctly here. It's definitely outside of our knowledge, but I don't think it's outside of the physical realm.
okay. Well, I mean that's a. I mean, I understand why you would say that. I mean, I typically am just a methodological naturalist, so I think
Well, I
by
would be more
method.
of an evidentialist. Fuck, did I say it right? Which one was right? Evidentialist, materialist?
Who, me?
No, me. I would be an
Oh,
evident,
okay,
is
gotcha.
believes in evidence and believes in things I can see. Would that be right in saying to pigeonhole myself as an evidentialist and a materialist?
Yeah, I mean, if you're, yeah, I would just say if that's the case, I would say you're an empiricist. Like you only believe what's empirical. But I think that could be a lot of people don't take that position anymore.
Well,
Like a
well, on that
verificationism.
tangent, trying to refer back to that thing that I asked you to remind me about whenever we got completely off
Oh, okay,
track,
gotcha.
was I'm trying to set up a general Sunday show. If you're free on a Sunday, what time is it
Mhm.
for you now?
It is 11:21 p.m.
So you are 5 hours behind me. You're Florida, or Eastern Standard, yes.
Yes.
On a Sunday, I'm hoping to try and set up a show. I'm an agnostic. I'm hoping to find a theist, and I have an atheist up for it, and we want to go through philosophy and sort of do what we've aptly named, instead of philosophy, it's pigslosophy.
Uh-huh.
And it's like a 101 class to try and get people better at debating and understanding the terms and things like that. So if you would be up for that, man, and if you're free on a
Sure.
Sunday, we could try and work around a few times. But that's definitely something I wanted to do, because I want to get better at these debatings, and I do want to understand the terms without having to get
Right.
people to explain it straight afterwards. But I'm aiming for an atheist, an agnostic, and a theist. Discuss pig's philosophy.
Yeah, sure. Theoretically asked, could you turn me down a little bit? He said that we're not on equal level. So I'm just looking at the chat here.
Oh no, there we go.
Just in case. I don't know if I'm a little loud, but I guess my microphone's right here beside my face. So
OBS audio is awful, but yeah, I've turned you down a
yeah.
wee bit.
So I guess what I should get to is why why is Molinism an attractive view? It's because helps to it helps to synchronize God's foreknowledge with human freedom. So, for example, with Calvinists, you may say something like, "Okay, so God pretty much planned that like a bad person would have done something bad, and that
Have
it
we
really
still not got
really
your denomination? I'm still not sure in your denomination.
I don't have one. It's gonna be too. It's I mean I could just pick one at random. It might that'd be easier. I don't actually have a denomination, but in fact
Can I
a
ask?
lot
Is
of
you now? I'm only making a reference because I spend fucking 2 or 3 nights a week hanging about with Richard, and he dyes his beard because Jesus says all beards need to be ginger. But is your beard in reference to any sort of a denomination, or is it just rocking
my
beard?
beard. You're asking me do I have a beard because of that?
Yes, because
No.
no, I am very stoned. I'm making this yeah, I got
No, I
weed
used
for
to have a
Christmas.
longer beard. I actually trimmed it.
But what am I? Oh, my TV has just flashed. So my internet may cut out. My TV's flashing from the connection. So if
Oh
we cut
no.
out, we will be back. But
Okay.
what I'm asking is, do you have your beard because beards are cool, or do you have your beard because it's a religious reference?
Just because I'm lazy. No, it has nothing to do with religion. I just am pretty lazy.
So
And
not Amish.
no, I'm not Amish. No, no way. Amish beards are way longer. Actually, I used to have a big long beard, but I trimmed it.
My jokes are awful. Sorry, my jokes are awful. Go on ahead.
No problem. No, I actually worked construction for the last 4 years, so
Well,
worked
generally,
outside all winter, and
Converse.
so
If we were sticking to the usual conversation sort of format that I would have here on the channel, we usually go for an hour, and then I open it up
Sure.
to if anyone else, and we've been going 59 minutes and 4 seconds. So
Sure,
if
bring
anybody has
anybody in
any
you want.
questions from the chat, or if anybody wants to join in with the chat,
Definitely.
B,
You got about 100 more subscribers than me, man. So I need to get the subs over to my channel about now.
well, in all honesty, man,
I'm just
my first 100 subscribers, I had no content, no nothing, and what I actually did is, you can judge me whatever way you want, but what I used to go was into Christian Hangouts, sub for sub, because when I did eventually get my channel set up, I wanted at least people from outside of the community. There's a lot of my which they've all obviously switched off their alerts because they don't arrive, but I wanted to try and get there's a Christian who in my opinion was in a cult, he has been kicked out of it, accepted back in, and then kicked out of it again. And the last time I seen him, he's in a turban, and I'm dying to get him onto my channel to have a chat with him. He's banned me 2 or 3 times, but the point
really?
I'm trying to make is I went to Christian Sub for Subs and other different streams that were sub for sub just to get the 100, you know. So
Wow, that's interesting because I had a YouTuber on the atheist side who you mentioned earlier. And I hate to mention his name because he don't like when I mention him, but
yeah,
he tried to say that it's like I would go into Dragnot stream and I would like kind of, you know, so he would say something and I would criticize it. I mean, I wasn't really trolling, but I was like, I just don't like places to be echo chambers. And it was like, then me and Drag became pretty much friends, and we talk and stuff. And then it's like I'd go into other hangouts, like, and become friends with atheists, even though I'm like, in their side chats, live chats, like saying that's wrong. You can't, look into this guy's book and you'll see why or whatever. And but one of the atheists was like, you just come on my channel just to try and get followers. And I'm like, if I was trying to get followers, I don't think I'd be coming onto an atheist channel like criticizing atheism.
well, I went into the main guy. He's called Walking by Faith, such and such and such. I can't remember his exact name. Tony will know that I've been banned because he started following him at the time that I got banned. I got him to watch it for me, so to speak.
Sure.
But I went in and I was desperately honest with them. I told them I was agnostic, told them my points, and we had general chats. It was very informal because it was mainly a sub for sub. So it was like, hello, YouTube, come and vote and fucking sub and all that sort of.
Yeah.
But it gave you the opportunity to meet people. They would then watch at least one of your videos for maybe a minute or 30 seconds, and I would do the same. And if they were worth my time getting on to the, like, I'm not going to fucking sub to somebody and get them onto the channel if they just generally run around the shopping centre ripping up science books and telling you that God's the one and only. They're crazy people. But if somebody has a cogent argument and actually makes a point, then that was the general idea, if you get what I mean.
Sure. Yeah, and I've only been back on YouTube for about 2 months, so I'm just kind of getting reacquainted with some of the people, and I guess some of the atheists that I'm friends with, they all disagree. Like I didn't know there was the big split that happened.
Oh
And
yeah,
so,
I try and stay up the middle of the split. I find that both
Yeah.
of them are assholes. If it's what we're talking about, then both of them are assholes. One more so than the other, but they're both assholes.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking. There's a bunch of people, but I would
I
just
don't
say
like
that a
splits.
whole lot of people. Yeah, and if you, like you said, if you want to take questions or bring anybody on, I'm willing to have a conversation with anybody. I'm actually, I was telling Tony Designs earlier. I was listening to some old video I found of this guy, Ocean, who's a polytheist, and I'm not really that familiar, but I've seen his name around a few times, and I had seen a video pop up, and I watched it, and he was talking about the Trinity and about polytheism and things like that, and so I told him I'd be interested in talking to that guy at some point. Although I would want to look more into like what he actually believes about polytheism and so forth. But
Oh, I think Ocean is a very intelligent man. I have a lot of respect for the man. I'm not on his Discord. I don't follow his server because in certain retrospects, from what I've seen of his inside commas work, I can see that I don't really want to offend the man because I've an awful lot of respect for him, and I'm blunt, okay? I say what I speak and I say what I think, and sometimes I feel that he just takes it like a Darth Dawkins step further, and instead of God of the Gaps, creates a paganism sort of God and gaps, and it's like a loophole in the law, so to speak. And I can see a lot of people being, okay, that makes sense, and then going down the pagan route. Obviously I have biasm towards the agnosticism, atheism, critical thinking, and things like that, and the whole something gaps argument.
Yeah.
I'd rather say I don't know. I'm a massive fan of I don't know. It's totally fine to say I don't know.
I am too, and especially when people ask me about God's nature, right? People expect like there to be some type of answer to some type of, sometimes we'll get to the very bottom of God's nature and they'll be like, yeah, but why would God do it that way? And I'm just like, how am I supposed to know? Like, if it doesn't say, like, I mean, we have certain answers from Scripture, but like, you can't just expect me to know every thought God had. So I'll say I don't know in a heartbeat. So
Yeah, like Purple makes a comment in the chat here. He's like, I might be agnostic. I'm not really sure. Now, I don't know if he's making a joke or not. It's very obvious that it could be a joke, but like I was driving home today. I drove up to the girlfriend's on Christmas Eve. Went to work, drove up at 4 o'clock. It's 2 hours from here. It's from one side of Northern Ireland to the other. But
so
the point I'm trying to
actually,
make is really quick. The point I'm trying to make is the idea that God could exist did pop into my head. I generally
yeah.
couldn't say that I am agnostic because I was listening to streams as I was going. I think it was
Mhm.
is it questionable? It's the British podcast.
Oh yeah, reason or unbelievable.
Unbelievable, that's the one. I was listening to that, and I can't remember exactly who it was. It was only a wee snippet. I had set up a playlist for the run. It was only something like 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
It was one of their most recent interviews. And at the end of it, I was like, well, it's not that that argument is unfalse. It's hard to find the correct words, but it genuinely made me think.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to put across, is it genuinely made me think. It was like, well, he's sort of half
Perfect.
right in what he's saying, and the other guy's right as
Mhm.
well, but
Well, that's what I do. I don't bring. You might notice this. I don't bring proofs. What I do instead is I go, well, doesn't it stand to reason that this is the case? And I'll let you agree with me on your own terms or not. And so, like, I'll give you an example. Okay, so we just had, remember Sammy Jenkins, who's your first patron, so shouts out to him, just said, Converse Contender, isn't Molinism just a convenient answer to the free will problem? And I would just say that Molinism just says that God has this middle knowledge of what creatures would freely choose to do, and it would be a convenient answer if there weren't any scripture that says it. But like it's all through scripture. Like, for example, it's Christ said, if Sodom would have known what you know, they would have turned. Or I don't have the exact phrasing right there, but that's what he said, something like that. And then he's the verse with David at Kyla, if you stay here, Saul will kill you. And then other verses like, for example, I had mentioned this on my last stream. I was just reading one day, and I wasn't even thinking about Molinism, and I was reading. It says, "And I will send you into the land, but you can't take over the land. You have to do it in a certain period of time, because if you didn't wait that amount of time after killing some of these people, the animals would devour you." So he's saying like if you go in too quickly, you will die because these animals will kill you. And then now it's like all the time when I'm reading, I see these if then statements, these subjunctive conditionals. And so I would say it would be convenient if I just kind of made it up post hoc or ad hoc to explain that, but without any verses to back it up. Like if there were no
you could
Bible
technically
verse.
get a verse to back up
What was,
everything.
what was that?
You could technically get a verse to back up everything, depending on your point of view and how much power you are. They use Bible verses to justify slavery. They use Bible verses to justify the
Well,
Crusades.
yeah,
No, I'm just generally, and we could do the whole
yeah,
Schuyler thing and say that we justified
yeah,
First Samuel. There's lots of. You could also say that we justified no gambling in the church. You could also say that we should take. There's good things from the Bible as well. Sometimes I would make the
sure.
reference point of the Stargate. I don't know if you've ever watched Stargate SG-1, but
No, I remember it being on. I think I had a Stargate video game on like 64 or Sega Genesis or something.
yeah, well, there is a race of aliens that are a higher energy form. They have taken the position of a god, and their actual Bible, from a reference point, from a subjective, objective, whatever it is, from an outside view looking at it,
Mhm.
the book is very written in parables and things like that, and has very good points in it. but the actual people who you worshipped were bad. They ended up getting destroyed, and the religion actually, it's implied that the religion continued on because the actual book had good points in it, regardless of who the evil bastards were sucking all your energy to fight another alien race. But that's a whole sci-fi thing. But the book, the point I'm saying is that the actual stories, that's why they got so many followers and so many people, because the book actually was a good reference point. So as much as there is bad things in the Bible, there is good.
Yeah, and of course we would disagree on a lot of those bad things. But first of all, like the Bible just records things. I think it's unapologetic in that sentence. See, there are things like people were saying, well, the Bible says that there was incest, like Lot sleeping with his daughters or whatever, and it's like, well, hold on a second. The Bible records that happened. It doesn't condone it. In fact, it directly disputes it in places. Like whenever I hear some of these things that like the Bible says, it's like, well, the Bible's not an apologetic work for
Right. Well, I would
16.
take that point that you're trying to make, and I would apply that to what's going on here, because me and you are having a conversation on the internet with the not the absolute point of trying to convert anyone, but you're trying to put your point of view and I'm trying to put my point of view. But what I'm talking
Sure.
about in the real life, in reference to just what you said and being the tangent king that I am, I was trying to go on a Channel 4 show with my granny, and it was a talk, not a talk show, but you would be put just me and another person, and we would sit and have a conversation. And my granny asked me, was like, "What would we talk about?" And I was like, "Oh, I've lots of things to talk about, Granny. Do you want to talk about the incest in the Bible? Making a joke." And she was like, "Well, there's no incest in the Bible." And the first thing I went to was the reference of the Pillar of Salt, Sodom of Gomorrah, and the story for her, who is 82, who has spent her entire life being more so than a cultural Christian, goes to church, does the whole thing, did not know the continuation of the story after the wife turned into the Pillar of Salt. She was never taught that.
Yeah, well, yeah, but the Bible doesn't condone that. It just says that it happened.
Yes,
In fact,
I understand what
the
you're trying to say, but what I
Yeah.
understand, but what I'm trying to say is that the people who are in charge, the people in the church, they know not to teach that, because from the modern point of view, incest is always, it's not a great thing.
Oh no, but that's not a modern thing. There's actually direct laws against it in the Old Testament. So it's not that they just see that and then
Again, you're
teach
just
the
referencing
opposite.
back to the point that me and you are having, man, because we want
Sure,
to make
sure. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if you say you work in construction or did work in construction, and now
Yeah, I
you're
did.
now hopefully you've made a bit of profit and you're now going to school. Have
Yes.
these conversations in real life. These people don't care.
Oh,
it's not
sure,
that they
sure. I
don't
see what
care.
your point is.
It's that these people don't know that. Whenever I find myself in I hate to use the fucking, if you could, I'll actually do this just for the whole fucking point because it's very referenced, but debate scene that we're on here on fucking internet, you have to be very particular why I make the reference of the 101 pig philosophy that I want to do, so we can bring everybody to that level. But when you're talking to people in the real world, in the real, IRL, in real life, it's a very different conversation that I have.
Yeah, I agree. But you gotta look at the other side as well. Whenever I have atheists come, in the real life, right, coming up to me in the IRL, their arguments aren't, they're not the caliber of Alex Malpass or somebody like that.
Oh
They're
yeah. Just to make a reference point, their arguments don't need to be, because when you're, it's not that I don't. Now I'm trying to find my words here and articulate myself correctly, but when you're trying to convince someone in real life, and you turn around to them and you spend 20 minutes explaining to them what a fallacy is, and another 20 minutes after they understand the fallacy, what they have committed and why their argument doesn't stand, you've nearly spent an hour, where if you used colloquial terms and understand their point of view, you could put the point across a hell of a lot easier and a hell of a lot quicker.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could explain how a bullet hits you in the fucking
the
head
same
and
point
kills
that-
you, but you could just say
Yeah.
you've been knocked out, you're dead.
Right.
It's you see the reference point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that you're right. A lot of the cultural Christians or Christians that sit in the pew every week, they don't know a lot of this stuff. But I'm saying neither do a lot of the atheists that just listen to Dawkins' lecture, and then all of a sudden they're like this genius atheist.
I
Like
personally
this,
don't
it's the
like
same way,
Dawkins at all. I think Dawkins should stick to biology, but yeah, I
right?
get where you're coming
But
from,
you get what
man.
I'm saying. They're
Yeah,
both. I agree with you,
I've had
and
a
I say the shoe
conversation
fits
with a
on the other foot.
Presbyterian minister from a church up around the corner from the depot I used to work with, who wanted me to go to the Christian meetings that they have. I think it's called Alpha. It's like a Christian program that they have where they do a video and they ask questions at the end. I personally think the videos are very biased and leaning in certain directions, but I mentioned this to him and he was like, "This is the exact reason we want people like you to come to these." And I was like, "That's fine, man. If you had another person like me, I would go to it. But me and 50 to 100 Christians in a room watching a Christian biased video, no matter what I could argue, no matter what points I could put across, there's me and 100 of you. You're not going to agree with me."
Right. Yeah, and here's the thing: is that I'd like to go to church more. I don't hardly ever go to church, man. I'd like to go more, but honestly, it just seems like in church, man, it's like they want to preach to you and like or at you, and it's like it just seems to me like there's not a whole lot of like learning about the Bible or anything like that. Like it's mainly just like they
Well, I
stick
don't
to
go to
the
church.
same verses. They there's some singing, and so like I like some of the old my favorite hymns and stuff are the ones that are like you find like in the old school, like a lot of old reggae songs and stuff are full of these super old um like church hymns and stuff.
Well,
And I like the reggae
we're
versions usually
Presbyterian.
better.
I'm a Presbyterian. If you would, look on paper and what I was
They
at,
are.
I'm a Presbyterian.
Hmm.
And my grandfather passed away, and if there was, for talk's sake, I have mentioned this story before, at
Uh,
his funeral, for talk's sake, if there was an hour-long sermon, there was 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe less, talking about my grandfather, and then the rest of it was, if you don't do this, you're all going to fucking hell. Now, we sort of let it slide, so to speak, and then a couple of years later, whenever it was that my nanny passed away, I think it was my auntie and my father actually approached the same minister and went, "Right, to see if you did
mhm.
what you did last time, get the fuck. None of that." And he was very short on he spent maybe 40 minutes on who my nanny was and what she'd done, and then
Right.
20 minutes on you're going to hell. So,
Yeah.
it is, I can understand where you're coming from. When you pick a particular pigeonhole, it's
Yeah. It's just interesting, man, to me because I just don't get much out of it. I mean, sometimes there's some cool songs and stuff, obviously, but other than that, I don't really go much. I'd like to go more, but I just don't. I've never found a church that was like really interactive, and I always thought like it would be cool if I started a church that like people could just be like, all right, well, what about that verse? Like oh, blah 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 from the audience, but then I was like. That church would suck because it'd be like
when it
everybody
comes
just
to
like,
the end
well,
of
what about on
days.
line 3?
When it comes to the end of days and all that, man, I will probably, as it stands right now, if I died in the morning, would be buried in a Presbyterian graveyard just up from my mother's. I would have a Presbyterian service and all that there, but what I'm working towards is a Viking funeral. And the way it works in this, you need to own your own wee patch of beach. I need to own like my own 100 yards of a beach. And the girlfriend's brother, last 6 months ago, bought a wee bit of land up in Benone, which is very close to the fucking North Beach. So that's what I'm aiming for. I want everyone to have a party, enjoy themselves, and all that there. And regardless of what you believe, I think culture has taught us wrong in.
Yeah, I agree, man. Look at my yeah, it taught me wrong. Look at my TV screen. I specifically took that Converse Contender and I specifically put it backwards. I'm looking at a mirror straight in front of me and it's reading the exact right way. But then it's like Well,
Hold
this
on, no, no,
camera
no. I might be able to
automatically
fix
makes
that.
it right.
All right, hold
Huh?
on. Let me see. Are you camera 1 or camera 2? You're camera 2. Hold
Yeah.
on. Right. I don't know if this is coming up on stream, but we should. Do.
I'm like, I specifically did it so it'd be the right way.
There you go.
It,
It
it
looks
might just be my camera.
okay. No, it's fine. It looks wrong for me and you, but for everybody else on
Oh,
the,
gotcha. Okay. Okay.
I
I
just
was like,
fixed.
what?
I just fixed it. Everybody, I flipped your view.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. No, I didn't care really. I was just like, I was just thinking, I spent time getting it right, and then I was like, this camera automatically must turn it back around, like to spell everything the right way.
Well, everybody watching on YouTube now sees it as Converse Contender.
Yeah.
Right.
Appreciate it.
I'm
But
going to open it up. We've got Richard
go ahead.
Madsen. We've got Doc Fearsome. We've got John from Messenger Reveals. We've got Shay AR. We've got the Holy Spackle. None of you people are fucking shy. Alright. The link is in the chat. 15-second delay. The link is in the chat.
The link's out there.
You know, come on in. I spent about an hour tonight.
Did you see? Yeah, did you see that? I went on Richard's channel and we had like a long discussion.
I did stay up and watch that, man. I have a habit of stalking Richard. Remember Sammy Jenkins, my first Patreon, shout out again, was having a very long conversation with Richard Madsen off screen, just complete, just the two of them having a chat. Should have seen Richard. He was wearing a jacket and a hat and all, not a special t-shirt. It was but he sent me the link and I jumped in, and then Richard panicked. He was like, because I changed my name from MathPig and sometimes I use Hogfather, and I changed my name to I'm Just Listening #nosy, and no icon. And Richard was all, who the fuck's this? Who? How'd you find this? What's going on? So yeah, I listened to that for as long as I could at the Boxing Day dinner table today, until I got looks from both the girlfriend and the girlfriend's mother going, "Will you put the phone down and put the phone away?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see One Way just popped in. What's up to One Way? Feel free to come in. He just posted the link.
Well, One Way was someone I was also talking to as a theist that has a background in philosophy to jump on and help.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Have him on. I had a pretty good discussion with Richard. I think we're going to disagree on a lot, but at least at the end, Richard was like, well, I got to give it to you. You're like one of the only Christians that are actually consistent, because the view I took, and obviously we disagreed, but I thought,
that's the thing
that
that's
was
very, very
nice
important to Richard. Richard's very good at reading body language and reading the mannerisms and things like that there. And if you're consistent, he'll give you credit. It's when you start coming across as a Poe, start coming across as a troll, and you're saying things for a gotcha. I fucking hate gotcha moments, because there should never be a gotcha moment. The whole point of a discussion, I'm going to tangent again and talk shite, but when you have a debate, you come across in a debate as if you're trying to convince the other person. That's what I find what most people do, is they're arguing with the other person to convince the other person, but you should be trying to make the debate to put points across to convince the audience, because the audience are watching it because they're conflicted, or sometimes they want a dumpster fire, depending on the people on. But if you're watching a genuine debate on something, you're watching it because you're conflicted. You're trying to find points, you're trying to find information, and if anything, I don't want anybody to be convinced from a discussion. I want people to leave questioning the discussion.
Yeah. Well, Messenger Reveals asked me about SJ. SJ did email me and say that she would be willing to talk to Messenger, have a debate with him.
That's a lie.
Potentially next week.
That's a lie.
We'll see.
I'm going to say that's a lie.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, because I emailed, now, I know I'm tiny. I be about in the conversations and stuff, but I know that I'm tiny. I'm, hung like a donkey, but I'm a tiny channel. And I emailed her And an hour later, she emailed me back and goes, "Yes, MathPig, I'd be willing to have a conversation with you, but I can't do Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is the only days I stream, as you know, man."
Oh, okay.
Right? And I was like,
Yeah.
"Fine."
Well,
Well, no, no, no,
SJ.
let me finish. I
Go
goes,
ahead.
"Well, that's a strange coincidence. Did you have long enough to look at my channel and see that that's the days I stream? I will work around you. How about a Sunday?" And she goes, "Sundays are fine. Sundays are perfect." And I was like, "Right. How about this Sunday? My girlfriend, I'll get her to go home early. I'll send, not that I'll send the child home early, but, I can designate a wee bit of time and go,
Yeah.
and do this." I says, "Right, and she goes, "Oh, no, I can't do this Sunday." And I was like, "Right, well, can you do this Sunday?" And she says, "I can't do after a certain amount of time." And I was like, "Right, well, I'll do it after this time." And she's like, "Oh, no, no, well, this Sunday I can't do it after that time." And she just made excuse after excuse after excuse. Now, I know that I'm a small channel, but I would rather that she said at the very start, "You're too tiny to worth my time," than make excuses
Well,
after excuses after excuses. I
well,
don't
what I
know
would
if she
say, man.
knows that she's noticed that I'm friends with Jim Majors and her and him have a rivalry,
Oh, they
but
have a beef going on.
oh yeah, they don't like each other.
Oh,
They
I didn't
don't.
know that. I shouted. I think I shouted out Jim when she had SJ interviewed me a few weeks ago, right before I sold my house, and I think I shouted out Jim Majors. I didn't know that. Okay,
See,
so they got like a
what
little
I
beef going
appreciate
on.
about yourself, man, is what I appreciate about other people. I think the only person that came close to not doing it was Sky Out,
Uh,
and I shouted him out a couple of times about it. But you put up with my tangents, and you've been here
yeah,
for
definitely.
nearly 90 minutes. You've had the banter. We found out an awful lot about your background. We found an awful lot about yourself.
Yeah, I would just say this too though about SJ is that SJ a lot of times with her schooling and everything, I think that so I'll message SJ and I'll be like, "What time can you do it?" And SJ will be like, "Oh, it's gonna have to be like 2 o'clock midday," and I'm like, "Geez," because I want to do it at nighttime like we are, but
yeah.
but the other thing is that you probably need to go through me. If you guys want to talk to SJ, you have to go through me. All right. I'm,
Man, I'm
I'm just
fucking
kidding.
YouTube
But
famous. I'm YouTube famous. I get 20,000 fucking minutes this month watch time. All right, I'm YouTube famous. That bitch should be crawling at my fucking knees, coming to to come onto this channel.
no,
No,
but
I'm only
what I'm
messing.
saying is
I
that
don't
she
think
might have.
she's capable. The point I'm trying to make is I don't think that she is capable of
Uh,
actually what we would refer to as having the banter, having the crack. I don't think that she's capable of coming on here and actually without making an argument. I don't want no syllogisms. I don't want no, you know, because everything that woman will say, I can reference a video from Josh or I can reference a video from someone else, or it's very easy. And I do want to have a conversation with SJ if you do
uh,
watch this, but I
I
find it
like.
very easy to make a reference point to some sort of a paper that refutes you, and you don't back your statements up. You just go, "You're wrong." And I would like to know your background. I would like to know where you're from. I would like to know everything about you rather than your arguments for your point
Uh,
of view. This is the whole point of
yeah.
this
So
channel, is I'd like to know people. And I think that,
yeah.
I don't know, I think that she's incapable of actually coming on stream and being herself. Whenever she makes these arguments, it's putting her point of view across. And her
Mhm.
point of view is, straight up with the shield and the armor, and this is who we are, and this is what the point is.
Mhm.
And I want to know
Well,
the real SJ. I want to know the real people.
yeah. So I would just I think because I like SJ. So just to take up for SJ a little bit, I think
SJ
that
took the side of
SJ
G-Man. I will not go so far as saying I like SJ because she took the side of G-Man. G-Man is scum.
on what?
I can't remember the exact.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
gonna. I'm
Yeah, I
not gonna
don't.
say something half stoned and be wrong. I would
Sure,
rather
I
find
get
the
it.
exact video and reference you.
Sure. So, what I was just gonna say and this is the last thing I guess we'll say about that
Yeah, clearly
is
nobody's
that
coming in. Does
it
anybody
could
want to
be
come in? Is there nobody going to come in? We've spent a half hour waiting on people to come in. Holy Spackle hasn't come in. Richard, Sammy, the link's in the chat. I'll post again if anybody wants to come in just one last time. And if that doesn't work, did it work? It
yeah.
did.
It's
If
your
that
last
doesn't work, we'll
shot.
round it up.
Yeah, it's your last chance. All right. Um, but yeah, maybe it could be that SJ just seeing that it was MathPig, and that MathPig's always in all the um all the atheist videos and stuff, that she probably just, maybe she just didn't know you, and she was like, well, he might be trying to get me, because sometimes people will try, but I know you're not like that, so it could be just that, hey, if you want to talk to SJ, or you got to go through Converse.
Well, if Converse could put the
I'm just kidding.
point across to SJ that I'm not here to get a gotcha moment,
Sure.
I'm here to find out the real SJ. And if she wants to ask me personal, well, not personal questions as in where do I live or anything, but if she wants to ask me questions on my belief and I can give her
Hmm.
answers back so we can try and find a middle ground. The whole
Sure.
idea of this channel is, as I've said many a time before, think an Irish pub with a pool table behind it where we can all come and be friends, fuck each other off and call each other assholes, and know that if you come back next Saturday, the same person will buy you a pint. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, everybody, we've got 16 people watching and only 12 likes, so I'd say let's get a couple more likes first of all.
well, that's I'm doing real well. And saying that, the episode where I shouted at James from Modern Day Debate nearly topped out at 30 people live watching, which was a personal record for myself. But
Oh, really? Nice.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do people like me shouting at James?
Yeah, I like James, man. I got to tell you, and
I haven't.
so I was gonna moderate a debate today. He emailed me. He's like, "Can you come mod at 4 at 9 p.m.?" And
Yeah, seen that.
I was like, 9 would be much better. And so I guess he found somebody to do it at 4, and it was interesting. I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing, but how about this? How about that book that I shared with you? That'd be something interesting. I wish I could screen share it. That book that I seen at Barnes and Noble that
Yeah, set up
I
your
sent
screen
you
share. Shut up
on
your.
my.
Oh, you can. No. I've seen for
Yeah,
everything.
but
If you
um,
screen share.
the only thing is that I don't have it on my laptop. I have it on my phone, and so I couldn't screen share it
Oh, well, that's your
from my
fault.
laptop.
That's all your fault. I
Yeah,
know that I have the
but
scene there.
it's on my Discord. Yeah, it's on my Discord. So if anybody's interested, but there's a book that just was happened to be looking at the philosophy section, and I look over and there's some section, I forget exactly what it's called, like um, lost knowledge and secret wisdom section or something like that at Barnes and Noble, and I'm like, what is this section,
Oh,
right?
that's
And then,
yeah. Seen that one. Yeah, magic
yeah, and
spells to.
yeah, and then whenever I looked at the book, here it is. Maybe you guys can see it on here. So it's called Hexing the Patriarchy: 26 potions, spells, and magical elixirs to embolden the resistance. You see that? And it has this like cool Afro-American chick with a Muslim symbol tattooed on her shoulder. And then I'll show you the back of the book. A magical guide to subverting man-boy powers, one spell at a time.
One spell at a time.
And if you read it, I opened it up, and um, whenever I opened it up and started reading it, it had like A through Z, and it was like, this book contains A, and it had some, you get down to C, it's like conjuring up spells to, blah blah, and it was basically it was like a witch book for like far left social justice warrior types to put spells on, I guess, on guys who have power, or like guys who are in like a powerful position
Okay.
or something.
Well, I'm not
I
going
was
to
like,
interrupt you,
"Gee."
but if I don't run to the toilet and let my dog out at the same time, I may actually end up having to get a mop out. So,
Go
Converse,
ahead.
if you want to shill your channel, do a wee thing. I will be back in less than 3 minutes. And yeah, everybody, Converse. I'll put the links in the
Go ahead.
chat later.
All right, the link is in the description. If you guys want to check out, if you guys want to come in while MathPig walks away, just come on. Actually, I don't think I can add anybody, so just forget about that. What's up to Maya? I always see Maya in these streams. I don't even want to plug my channel, really. You guys know who I am. I've been on here for long enough now because I pretty much recognize all the names here. Wild Heart just subbed to me the other day, so remember Sammy Jenkins, Tony Designs, Messenger Reveals. All y'all are subbed to me pretty much. I don't know about Geo Sam. I see Geo Sam in a lot of streams. I don't think he's subbed to me yet. I'm just gonna go through and call all of you guys out.
I don't know if you want Gio to sub to you. Gio's fun, but he argues an awful lot.
Oh, does he?
Gio
Well,
is. I love Gio to bits, and I will stay in personal contact with Gio as much as contact. But Gio is the only person that I have kicked from my server.
well, Shay AR. I don't remember you subbing, so better get
That's
on it.
AR as an atheist rationale.
Oh, okay. I remember AR. I think maybe
Are you
they
sub crying? Are you really got that bad? I said shill your channel, not cry out for love.
I was waiting on you to come back, so
Yeah. Everybody knows who you are, and if you fucking don't, you should go
yeah.
and check it out, man. Because Converse, if anything, he may be a weirdo. He has a cool beard, and he's definitely open to everybody. So everybody is always welcome to come onto the channel.
Yeah,
If the
definitely.
links aren't in the description, they will be by tomorrow.
Hmm.
His icon, by the way, for the actual video is what he used to be on his icon with the king, the crown, and what he's thinking of going with the gas mask. And Converse, go on, tell the truth. What is it you said to me? The reason you were going for the gas mask? Come on
That
now,
was
come on, say it online. Be appreciative.
all right. Yeah, it was a joke, but I found so the king thing is a Snapchat filter my son took of me, and so there was another Snapchat filter of somebody with a gas mask, so I put it on me and posted it in my Discord, and I was like to all my atheist friends because I keep a lot of atheist friends in my Discord, and I'm like, this might be my new profile picture, me with the gas mask on, because of how toxic atheism is.
So I went and combined the two pictures and made him
Yeah.
the
He
king.
made an
Toxic.
amalgamation of both of them. Yeah, that was hilarious.
So yeah, everybody, massive thank you. We'll probably have I'll definitely be in Discord. It's only 5 o'clock. I'll be in Discord for a while. I don't know about Converse, but the pigsty's open. The link's definitely for that in the chat. And yeah, I really do appreciate everybody coming. These are all very, very good. And yeah, Converse, thanks very much again.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Always a pleasure.
we'll end with bye-bye.